Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. So you know that in this space all I do is I teach you how to analyze healthcare data, right? So this year I'll be starting a new series where I'll be teaching you how to create dashboard using Python programming language. So we'll be analyzing healthcare data and we'll be creating dashboard using Python programming language. So I know there are other sources or data analytical tools you can use to create your dashboard like Excel, Tableau, Power BI and so on, but there's really no much information regarding creating dashboard using Python. So I will be teaching you how to do that. So what are those tools you are going to need for you to be able to create dashboard on Python? We'll be using VS Code and we'll be running our dashboard on Streamlit. We'll be hosting it on Streamlit. Okay, so currently I am in the Visual Studio Code and this is where we are going to be writing our code. So unlike when we want to carry out our data science project when we use Jupyter Notebook, this time around we'll be using Visual Studio Code, and you can either download Visual Studio Code on your computer system, or if you have Anaconda on your computer system, you can go to Anaconda and you can just go ahead and launch your Visual Studio Code. This is one of the reasons I love Anaconda. It gives you access to all these many resources that you can use. So this is what I'm currently using. You can just click on launch and your Visual Studio Code would launch. Okay, so today what we'll be doing is we'll be creating a dashboard that analyzes hospital appointments. Okay, so before you go into the hospital, you have to get appointments, make appointments with your doctors, right? So we want to analyze appointment. There are some times where you meet up with your appointment, there are some times where you cancel, and either you meeting up or canceling your appointments have effect on the hospital, right? So this situation, our client has given us their data set and we want to analyze the patient's hospital appointment, those that declined and those that attended for a period of time. Okay, so without wasting time, this is actually going to be very interesting. It's beginner friendly, so I would not make it too cumbersome. So if you know you're a beginner, this is very beginner friendly, so I would encourage you to stick to this and watch this video to the end. This is going to be a series, so after this I'll be doing more videos, tutorials on creating dashboard, but it's going to be basically on healthcare data set. So I don't want to talk too much, just let's dive right into this. Okay, so the first thing you can go ahead and do, or the first thing I did for this project, is I created a folder on my computer system. So if I go to files, you will see just right under my desktop I created this Python dashboard project, because this is where all our data sets will be working with. I'll be keeping them or storing them here. Okay, so if you click on this data set, you'll see this is the data set we'll be using, hospital appointment, and I'll be dropping those data sets on the video description section so that you can also go ahead and download it in as much as you are watching the video, so that you can practice along as well. So once you open into your Visual Studio Code, the first thing you're going to do is you can go to your file and open a folder. So if you click on open folder, it will take you to your desktop and you can now go ahead and open that folder which you've created. So in this case, our Python dashboard project. Okay, so you can select that and open it. So that's how we've gotten to this point in place. So our Python data folder, remember, it contains another folder where we have our data set that is going to be holding or keeping the data set which would want to work with. Right now I will click on this to create a new file. So we want to create a Python file where we'll be writing our Python code. So let's click on this and we are going to be calling this let's just call this hospital. Let me just call this hsp.py. So using this .py is what makes this a Python file. All right, this is using this .py extension is what makes this a Python file. So it's compulsory. You can see that once I added the .py, this icon, this Python icon was added to it. So now we have our Python file to work with. So now we can write our Python code on this script here, just like the way we do when we are working with our Jupyter notebook. So the first thing we want to do is to import those libraries we'll be needing. So if you've watched any of my videos, you'll see the first thing we do is always import pandas, numpy, and so this is what we are going to be doing. Import the libraries we'll be needing and read in our data set. So I want this video to be as short as possible because, like I said, it's beginner friendly. So most of the times I will not do most of the coding here, but I'll be explaining every code that will be written. So the libraries we'll be importing are Streamlit, pandas, and plotly.express. So plotly.express will help us to create charts that are interactive. So once you are done with that, the next thing is to read in your data set. So remember that we saved our data set, which we'll be using under the folder which we created, right? So this is the 5 parts to the data set and the name of the data set inclusive. Okay, so we'll be reading this as df. And the next thing we'll be doing is to do some cleaning. So for our dates column, let me just go ahead and click on this so that you view the data set. We have the appointment ID, patient age, gender, department, date, and status. So for the dates column, we'll be using pd.toDateType to convert this to a date type. Okay. So now the next thing we'll be doing is to create sidebar filters and the date range filter. So for the dashboard we are going to be having a sidebar that will be holding our filters, right? So it's very easy to do that. So to do that, since we'll be running this dashboard on Streamlit, we'll be using the st.sidebar.header to create a sidebar header for our Streamlit dashboard. Okay, so it's very simple and straight to the point. st is for Streamlit, then you call the .sidebar.header. This is what you use in creating a header for in Streamlit. So this is what we'll be using to create the sidebar header, and we'll be adding this test filters to it. So now when we are done with that is to create our date range filters, right? That will be in our sidebar. So we'll be having the minimum date and the maximum date so that the user can be able to select between dates. So I can decide to look for values from 1st of January to 6th of January to see our patients' appointment schedule went through, how many patients missed their appointment, and how many patients was able to meet up with their appointment, right? So we'll be using the .min function to get the minimum date value from our data set, and the .max function to get the maximum date value from our data set. So this will be what we'll be using to create our range of data. So this will be the minimum date and the maximum date in the range or in our filter button. Okay, so now the next we want to do is to create an date input button where you can input any date. It's going to be a sidebar date input so that you can input any date of your choice, and those dates are going to be selected from between the minimum value and the maximum value. So we'll be using the Streamlit, which is st.sidebar.dateInput. So this date input function takes in 3 values, or it can take in 4 values. So the first value is going to be a text, which is just going to be specifying that this is a date range filter, so you can select your date. And the 3 most important value is going to, the first one is a list, so which is going to be showing values from our minimum date to our maximum date. Okay, then we have the minimum value and the maximum value. So these are just all the values that will be inside our sidebar date input. Okay, so we'll have our start date and the end date value. So now the next thing we have to do is to create a filter where we can select the department we would want to look at. Okay, so in an hospital we have various departments like the obstetric department, gynecology, ENT, emergency. So in a situation where we want to see how many patients made appointment for each of these departments, who came, who decided not to come, so we'll need a filter for that. So to create a filter, the first thing we'll have to do is to get those unique departments in our department column. So we'll be using the .unique method in Python to get the list of those departments, to get their names. Okay, so now the next thing we're going to do is to create a select box in our Streamlit using the st.sidebar.select box. So in this select box now we're going to be putting in 3 values. First is just going to be a test where it tells, or you can pick a option from the various lists, and we would have the all option and the clinics. Remember that this clinic contains the various department names in a list. Okay, now we are going to be creating our apply filters. So remember that we created this all button option where we can pick all the values, and we also created a situation where we can pick a particular department from our clinic, right? So we're going to be creating this applied filter, and to do that, all we have to do is to write this piece of code that would return the date values for our selected date range. So remember, we have our start date and our end date, so we want to return those rows of columns. If you know Python, we would know that we're filtering for those values. Okay, we'll be writing this if statement that says if our selected clinic, remember we created a sidebar here where we have the all and the clinic. So if this selected clinic is not equal to an all statement, then we want it to return these filtered values. All right, so this is just simply what this line of code is doing. The first thing is to create a filter statement that helps you to filter your dashboard, and you will be using the subset to do that, just using our start date and our end date. We want to return those rows of column within our start date and end date. Then we'll go ahead and write an if statement stating that if the selected clinic is not equals to all, then return these rows of values. So now that we are done creating our filter, our sidebar containing our filter, the next thing we are going to do is to create our title for our dashboard. Your dashboard is going to have a title, right? So we'll be calling this our hospital appointment analytics dashboard. So using st.title, you can just go in and pass in any name of your choice you want to write in your dashboard's name. Okay, then we'll be writing this statement. Show this is just going to be showing us the name of the department that was filtered for, and also the start date time and the end date time. So it's just going to be something like showing emergency appointment from January 1st to January 6th. So one of the objectives for this dashboard is we want to see the total appointments per day and total appointments per week. So to get our daily appointments, all we have to do is, you remember we've already filtered those rows of data within our time period, right? So that, and we've called that filtered underscore df. So this is the rows of data between the start date and the end date. So we have to group that by our dates, right? So we'll be grouping that by date. You call it the dot size method, and we'll be setting our index to appointments. So with this value now, which is our daily df, we can now go ahead to create a line chart that will be showing us the date values and the number of appointments for each of those days. So you can say it's as simple, it's just easy and straightforward. Then we're using ps.line. If we were using matplotlib or cbon, if it was cbon, we'll be using sns, or if it was matplotlib, we would have been using a plt, right? Remember, we're using plotly.express, right, to create our chart. And the reason why we're using plotly.express, because it would help us to create interactive charts, and by the time I run this dashboard, you'll see what I'm talking about. So you just go ahead and use ps.line to create your line chart. So calling the st.plotly underscore chart, this is just to set the width of the chart, the width of the line chart, and that's for that. So to create your weekly appointment values, you are going to be following the same process as well. So you can see this, that we are technically going through same process. The difference is that we want to get the week value. So for this, we're using daily values, right? When we were looking at the daily time period, we just got our filtered DF and we grouped by the dates, because we were, for the data sets, we looked at daily appointments, right? So you can see February 7th of February 2025. So these are daily values, right? So we want to get these in week. Okay, we want to get the weekly value. So all we have to do is to call the date time function on this, and the period will be week. WS stands for week, so we want to convert this to weekly time period. So that's just the additional information we would be adding to the first step, which we did earlier. So now we can now go ahead and group by the week column and call on the dot size method and reset our index to name dot appointment, just like we did in our daily, when we're getting our daily trends of values. So with this, now we will be creating a bar plot for our weekly values. So the difference is, for daily we used a line plot, here we'll be using a bar chart. So just change this to dot bar and same as before. So now the next thing we want to do is, the second objective is to calculate or get the people that attended and people that did not attend. What percentage of people attended their appointment and what percentage of people cancelled their appointment. All right, so to do this is straightforward, using our filtered DF as usual. Remember that the filtered DF is returning those rows of data that matches your time period, right? So we'll be calling on the dot values count method. And what does the dot values count method? It helps you to count the numbers of values, unique values within a particular column, right? So we'll be calling on the dot values count method on the status column. And the status column, if we look at this data set, it shows us if a person attended, or if the person no show, if the person did not attend, or if the person cancelled. So this is going to, count the percentages of people that attended, those that cancelled, and those that did not show. So calling on the status.df.columns, just going to be returning a list of values containing the status, the various status, which is attended, cancelled, no show, and the count of those values that was returned using the dot values count method. So with this, now we'll be using this information to create a pie chart. We want to create a pie chart showing the various percentages, right? So using the calling on the ps.pie, would be passing in the various status name, which is cancelled, no show, then the values, which is the percentages of people that cancelled, those that attended, and those that did not show up. So with this, we'll be able to create our pie chart. So we have to do all this before we see our dashboard, right? So now the last information which we'll be answering is, we want to see those various clinics, that's those various departments with the highest appointments, the various departments with the highest appointments. And it's simple and straightforward. All you have to do is use the dot values count to count those various appointments for each department. Okay, so our fitted DF will be passing in the department, which is our column name, and we'll be calling the dot values count method to count those various departments. And with this information, we can now go ahead to create our bar chart. So ps.bar, our clinic DF is derived from the information we got from our dot values count. Okay, we'll pass our s as this will be containing our department names, while we'll be showing us the count values, and we'll be passing in also the title of this chart. We'll be giving the chart a name, a title, which is appointments by clinic. So with this, we'll be able to create the bar chart that shows us those departments or those clinic with highest appointments. And this is all the code we have to write to be able to create our dashboard. So now that we've done with this, we would have to install Plotly into our VS Code. So currently we don't have Plotly on this. You remember we imported plotly.express as PS, but we also need to have it. Okay, so we'll be using the pip.install to do that. Okay, so you can see we just pass in the pip install Streamlit plus Sleep Pandas, and with, as you know, you can see I'm saying requirements already satisfied, so we already have this on our computer system. Now to be able to run this dashboard, which we have written those lines of code for, I want to do Ctrl S to save this, and I'll be saying Streamlit run. The name of our file here is hsp, right? hsp.py. So let's go ahead and run this. Let's wait for this to run. So you can see, okay, when we are waiting for this, you see it says you can now view your Streamlit app in your browser. Okay, so let's go to our browser, and you can see this is the app which we just created. It's beautiful, right? So we have our title, which is Hospital Appointment Analytics Dashboard, and it tells us that it's showing 300 appointments from 1st of January 2025 to 31st of March 2025. So if we scroll down, it shows us the appointment over time, which is our per day appointment. And you see the reason why I said we should use Plotly to create our chart. So you can see that we have this over button that shows us the date and the number of appointments for those days. If we were using Seaborn or Matplotlib, this wouldn't be possible, but with Plotly we can create charts that are interactive. Okay, you can see these icons here that you can also use to zoom in and zoom out and interact with your chart. Okay, so now let's scroll down. We have appointments per week. This is our bar chart that is showing us appointments per week. So for December 30th 2024 we had 23 appointments. So for January 6, 2025, we have 24 appointments. January 13, 24 appointments, and so forth. So this is our weekly chart that shows us our appointments. So we can also see our attendance status overview. So how many people attended that did not miss their appointments? 69.3% did not miss their appointments, 9.67% cancelled, and 21% did not show up for their appointment. So we also have the top clinics by appointment volume. So which of the departments are the highest appointments? We have general medicine coming up with 64 appointments, cardiology 57, pediatrics 48, orthopedics 47, dermatology 43, ENT 41. So remember that this our dashboard is fully interactive. We can pick a particular clinic to look at. So for example, if we want to just look at dermatology department, we can click on dermatology, and you see it shows us the appointment days, number of people that scheduled an appointment for just the dermatology department. You see our entire dashboard has been fitted to dermatology alone. So let's go to pediatrics. So you could see same thing, our entire dashboard has been fitted to pediatrics alone. So this is a way you can create a interactive dashboard in Python. So not all the time Tableau or Power BI or Excel. You can also create dashboards that are interactive in Python, using Python as well. So you remember we have our date range filter. You can pick any date. So if we decide we want to see for the month of February, we can click on February. We can see from February 4th to February 28th. Okay, so and it shows us information within that time period. So this is how I was able to create our hospital appointment analytics dashboard using just these lines of code, right? Using just these lines of code is about 89. So using, let's say, 90 lines of code, we're able to create that dashboard. So this brings us to the end of this video. In our next video tutorial, I will also be teaching you how to create another healthcare dashboard using Python programming language. So ensure to give this video a thumbs up, and if you have any questions to ask, please do well to drop them in the comment section. I will make sure I reply each and every one of your comments, and please ensure to give this video a thumbs up so that we can get to a larger audience. If you like this video, then make sure you give this a thumbs up. Okay, so bye guys, and see you in my next video.